The following is rated PG-13 for drug-related content. Parental guidance recommended.
In seventh inning, Doc Ellis working on a no-hitter.
Doc Ellis has put 9 men on the bases, 8 walks and 1 hit batsman, with 3 outs separate him and a no-hitter. Somewhere along the line, I'm sure this is all being recorded so that we can... Bouncer down to first base. Oliver, brilliant play. Underhand Ellis, 2 down. 0-0-0, where it says San Diego. Not a pitch. They're mouthing Doc Ellis on a no-hitter.
Hello again, this is Mike and I'm the Sports History Collector. Tomorrow, June 12th, is the 54th anniversary of Doc Ellis's no-hitter. What made this no-hitter more unusual than other no-hitters is that Doc Ellis completed this task while tripping on LSD. This, of course, was not known to the general public till many years later, which is a good thing because a 10-year-old me in 1970 would not have understood how an athlete and role model could do such a thing. Of course, now it's just an amusing footnote of a long-gone era, but it just illustrates why we should be very careful on who we make our heroes. I will be reading excerpts from a blog story by Michael Kravitz that details the events leading up to and concluding Doc's no-hitter. I hope you'll enjoy. Doc Ellis dropped acid in the San Diego International Airport terminal, timing his dosage so that as his short flight to LAX was landing, his long journey would begin. It was Wednesday, June 10th, 1970. The top Pittsburgh Pirates starter was on the West Coast for a series against the Padres, and he had decided to hop a flight to Los Angeles for a quick visit with a friend 2 days before he was scheduled to pitch. With chewing gum swagger and excellent drop to his fastball, Doc was pitching the first game of a doubleheader against San Diego on Friday, June 12th. Neither team had started off the season very well. The Padres were 26-35 in their second major league season, while the talented Pirates had begun the year 28-29. This was the Bucs' chance to get back to 500, and their 25-year-old right-hander, already a star in his third season, was essential. Doc awoke in Los Angeles on the morning of Friday, June 12th. Feeling the effects of the previous evening's festivities wearing off, he popped another tab of acid. The woman he was staying with hurried into his room. "You need to get to San Diego immediately," she said. "You're pitching tonight." "No," Doc replied. "I'm pitching on Friday night. It's Thursday." Then he saw the date on the morning paper. Acid time travel was inconvenient as ever. It was Friday. He had lost an entire day. Doc's female companion, the unsung hero of our tale, dressed the 205-pound hallucinating athlete, poured him into her car, and hauled him back to LAX while tripping herself. No one knows how Doc ultimately wound up in the visitors' clubhouse mere hours before the game, but there he was, ambling to his bag in the corner, ready to begin his pregame ritual, and the first of 3 strategies for surviving the game: amphetamines. Dexamyl or greenies had been in the clubhouse since the 1950s, and Doc often used them to pull himself out of a drug-induced valley. Although he pitched stoned before, he had never taken the mound while on LSD. Dexamyl needed a sidekick, so Doc added Benzedrine white crosses to the greenies and swallowed them down. The combination was unsafe, but he had to land the lysergic spaceship, or at least bring it into the troposphere. The second key to navigating the experience wasn't a drug, but a man, catcher Jerry May. The Pirates' starting catcher in 1967 and 1968, Jerry was demoted to backup in 1969. Having a backup catch the high-flying Doc seemed risky on the surface, but Jerry had been behind the plate for the 2 most important games of Doc's career. He caught Doc's first major league start in 1968, and he had been the catcher in the most dominant game of the pitcher had ever had, throwing on April 9th when Ellis struck out 13 batters, a total he would never match. Dave Roberts took the mound for the Padres in the top of the first. Like Doc, he was 6'3", 25-year-old from the Pirates farm system. In fact, Doc and Dave were rotation mates for the AAA Columbus Jets in '67 and '68. A quiet man from Columbus, Roberts was shuttled between the bullpen and rotation after he went to the Padres in 1969. Though the Pirates fielded a strong lineup, Roberts swept through them 1-2-3. Doc began the bottom of the first wild. He couldn't see the hitters, only silhouettes on the right or left side of the plate. Sometimes he could barely see his catcher. But Jerry knew the solution. He wrapped his fingers in reflective white tape. Doc focused on the bright white patterns so he'd know what to throw and where. His two walks weren't unusual. Padre third baseman Steve Huntz was a walk specialist, finishing in the National League's top 10 in walks per plate appearance that year. Ellis's other free pass went to Nate Colbert, the Padres star slugger. With two runners on base, Doc found the white reflective tape at the end of the tunnel and struck out Ollie Brown. Willie Stargell, the big heart of the Pirates for 2 decades, started the scoring by blasting a solo home run in the top of the second. With the Pirates in the lead, Doc found momentary control, setting the Padres down in order, though the second out came thanks to running stab by nimble center fielder Matty Alou. Doc, a switch hitter who couldn't hit from either side of the plate, led off the third. Watching approaching Major League fastball is terrifying when sober, but on LSD, interstellar Ellis struck out. In the bottom of the inning, Doc walked Huntz again, but then got his first swinging strikeout, cutting down Al Ferreira for the third out. Roberts was in the zone, striking out Roberto Clemente and Stargell. He now had 5 Ks and no walks. Doc started out hot as well, striking out the first 2 batters, but then he hit Ivan Murrell with a pitch, sending him to first. Hitting batters wasn't unusual for Ellis. He was second in the league in hit batsmen in 1970, and intimidation was the third key to getting through the game. It was part of his style. He didn't have a blazing fastball, nor could he paint strike zone's edges, but players often knew he was on something stronger than green tea and that his control was questionable. That fear was strategic. Meanwhile, Murrell noticed that Doc wasn't paying attention to base runners, so he promptly stole second base, where he was stranded when Chris Cannizzaro popped out. Doc and rookie Dave Cash began joking about the no-no, much to the horror of their teammates. Speaking about no-hitters while the event is in progress is verboten in baseball, and now Cash and the Space Cadet were talking about it out loud every inning. Perhaps the superstition started to pay off, or another wave of LSD arrived, because Doc struggled mightily in the bottom of the 5th. He still couldn't see the batters, yet occasionally Richard Dixon's face appeared on the home umpire's shoulders. The fact that the ball changed weight and size in his hands also didn't help. Doc walked 2 batters again. First Dave Campbell, who also stole second base without trouble, then Huntz, who walked for the 3rd time. 2 runners were on when Al Ferreira hit the ball back at Ellis. Doc gathered it up and threw him out at first. He'd say later he had no memory of doing so. In 1970, Jerry May led all catchers in cutting down attempted base thefts. The Padres had only stolen 3 bases twice that year. The Pirates only once let the opposing team go 3 for 3 in stolen bases in a single game that season, and today was that day. Nate Colbert was no speedster, swiping only 2 bases in his other 155 games, but after Ellis walked him again, Nate nabbed second. Clearly, Doc was distracted. He struggled to see Jerry's tape, walking another batter. 8 runners across, 5 2/3 innings wasn't the sign of a solid game, but manager Danny Murtaugh gambled, keeping Doc on the mound. And it paid off. Ellis stuck out Tommy Dean to end the inning. Roberts was pitching the better technical game until Willie Stargell backed up Doc's clutch K with another mammoth homer, lifting the score to 2-0. After the big strikeout and Stargell's home run, the Pirates gathered more momentum when aging second baseman Bill Mazeroski leapt to his right, making an airborne backhanded catch of a scorching liner. Then Steve Huntz finally swung his bat, shooting a ground ball to first baseman Al Oliver. To everyone's surprise, Doc raced to cover first base, catching the throw for the 3rd out. Despite the well-pitched game, Dave Roberts was lifted for reliever Ron Erbel, As further proof that Doc was somewhere in the vicinity of San Diego, Ellis hit one of Herbel's pitches into his favorite ground out. Matty Allou's fielding skills were required again in the bottom of the eighth as he chased down a dipping line drive for an out. Doc then walked Ollie Brown, the ninth base runner, but retired the next batter. The score remained 2-0, and it was up to Doc to close out the game. With one out, Padres manager Preston Gomez tried to shake things up by putting in 2 consecutive pinch hitters, men Doc had not seen during the game. Of course, Doc hadn't seen anyone on the field, so that gambit was limited. Pinch hitter Van Kelly zipped a ball to the first baseman, and again Doc found his way to first in a straight line, gloving the throw for the out. Ed Spezio was one of the Padres' better hitters, came to the plate with 2 outs. Spezio kept his bat on his shoulder, gambling on the pitcher's wildness, driving the count to 3 balls and 2 strikes. Doc unleashed his most controlled pitch of the game, hitting the corner and striking Spezio out looking. Doc Ellis had pitched a no-hitter. Doc was ready to party again, but the team had to hurry back to the field to play the second game. Beat reporters found him to be unusually open during postseason interviews. Maybe it was because he was on LSD, or maybe it was because he had just pitched a no-hitter. Perhaps both. Doc Ellis said he never pitched another game on acid. He had his best season the following year when he started the All-Star game for the National League, and the Pirates won the World Series. He was traded to the Yankees in 1976 and helped them reach the World Series as well. He was shipped from team to team until finishing his career back with the Pirates in 1979. Teammates again, Dave Roberts pitched in relief in Doc's final start. But perhaps nothing in Doc's entire career came close to the day he pitched the no-no while tripping on acid in stratospheric orbit. And now for a tidbit. I don't know if they're still doing this or not. I don't look at box scores per se in current newspapers, but back in the day, some box scores, depending on what service they used, their box scores would, for the players, they would list the players for the bats and everything with the last name followed by the first initial. So in some of those papers you would find, if you were looking for the Pirates and Doc Ellis had pitched, the box score would say Ellis D. I'm telling you, you can't make this stuff up. And now for my collection, we have 5 Doc Ellis cards, all Topps cards, 1971, 1972 base card, the 1972 in-action card, or as some people call it, the in-action card, although this one is pretty action-related. The 74 Topps base card, which 74s were, I did a lot of collecting that year, that summer. We had a really good time, and we'll be having a video on that fairly soon. And the 75 base Topps Doc Ellis. Along with those, we have 2 signed baseballs, one from Al Oliver, who played first base during the no-hitter and had to try to make perfect feeds to Doc Ellis as he was trying to steadily get over to first base to cover. The other one is Willie Stargell, and that's one of my earlier baseballs that I got. I think he was actually at either not the first show that I went to because it was just a small show, but maybe the second show along with Rod Carew, but it's been quite a long time ago. And then in the back there is a signed 1971 Sports Illustrated of Willie Stargell, and that was a special magazine. It's not the exact copy, but I later bought an additional copy, or bought one that was already signed. But that was the first issue that I ever bought with my own allowance. And the reason why I did that, besides the fact that I really like sports, but my friend Keith had a subscription, and he had written in, I think, a few times to the back pages of the magazine. They had like a letters section. I think they called it the 19th hole, but I don't remember for sure. Anyway, he finally got one published, and it was in that issue, and we were all very impressed, being 11 years old and everything. So I had to get myself my own copy. And then later I just felt like Willie Stargell being one of my all-time favorite players, I definitely wanted to get one that was autographed. And what you won't see here, but you will see in a minute or two in the stills, I have a 1971 team bat. It was a reunion, 30th reunion. And you'll see Willie Stargell, Al Oliver, and Doc Ellis all right in the same area. That's a real special bat for me because Willie Stargell actually was in the hospital. I don't know if he had passed away before the show or after, but he knew he was going to be in the hospital, or he knew he wasn't going to be able to make it. He hadn't been feeling well or whatever. And I think it was late the previous year or early that year, he had worked out an agreement with the show runners who did the Pittsburgh reunion shows, the 60 Pirates and the 71 Pirates, the different shows all the time. So he had signed several bats ahead of time. So this was the last reunion show that you can find Willie Stargell on the bats. So, like I said, really important for me because I really like that team, as well as the 60 team. Anyway, I'm rambling. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Doc Ellis's no-hitter while tripping on acid. Very unusual story. And we'll talk to you soon.
It was a lovely summer's morning, an off day in LA. So thought one Doc Ellis, as he would later say. His girlfriend read the paper, she said, "Doc, this can't be right. Says here that you're pitching in San Diego tonight. We got to get you to the airport." So off Doc Ellis flew. His legs were a little bit wobbly, the rest of him was too. He took a taxi to the ballpark an hour before the game. Gave a half-assed explanation, found the locker with his name. The organ in the upper deck played all the schmaltzy hits. You could hear it in the clubhouse while Doc was getting dressed. His sunglasses he reached for from his locker in a case. Doc Ellis put his jersey on, then he put them on his face. The time came to go on out there, down the corridor. The walls were a little bit wavy, there were ripples in the floor. He went out to the bullpen to do a bunch of stretches, loosen up a little, throw some warm-up pitches. All rose for the national anthem. People took off their hats. Fireworks were exploding and the cokes were already going flat. Doc was back there in the dugout, so many things to watch. Some players spit tobacco juice and others grabbed their crotch. Then the umpire hollered, "Play ball," so it came to be. Doc's Pirates batted first, and when the wind down 1, 2, 3, Doc's catcher put his mask on and he handed Doc the ball, and it was 327 feet to the left and right field walls. So Doc's Pirates took the field then, and Doc stood on the rubber, and he bounced a couple of pitches, then he bounced a couple of others. We might say about that day, he looked a little wild. Lead-off batter trembled, nobody knew why. Doc Ellis smiled. Well, you walk 8 and you hit a guy, ooh, the things that people shout. Especially the manager, but he did not take Doc out. Doc found himself a rhythm and a crazy little spin. Amazing things would happen when Doc Ellis zeroed in. Sometimes he saw the catcher, sometimes he did not. Sometimes he held a beach ball, other times it was a dot. Doc was tossing comets that were leaving trails of glitter in the 7th inning stretch. He still had his no-hitter, so he turns to Cash, his buddy, says, I got a no going. Speaking the unspeakable, and he goes back out there throwing. Bottom of the 9th, he stood high upon the mound. 3 more outs to go, he'd have his name in Cooperstown. First up was Canizaro, he flied out to a loo. Then Kelly grounded out for Dean, and the shortstop yelled, that's a 2. Must have been a madhouse, fans upon their feet, littler ones among them standing on their seats. Well, that would have brought up Herbal, but Spezio pinch hit. He took a 3rd strike looking, officially that was it. It was a lovely summer's morning, an off day in L.A. So thought one Doc Ellis, as he would later say.